have to be on. Yeah, so you don't have to be on video if you don't have, if you choose to. Just we ask you to mute your cell phones. That would be awesome. And then we'll get started. So, do you guys want to get started? Or should we give it a couple more minutes? Marcia, you're on mute, Marcia.
A couple more minutes and then get started. That's fine.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Well, thanks for joining, guys. This is one of many we're going to do. So this is thanks for being here and joining us. We're excited to share. We got two amazing speakers. They're going to give us their wealth of knowledge. So we're going to record this for all of you who are watching this later. Hi, in the future, and hopefully this information will be helpful to your career decisions. My name is Reza. And I'm going to be the host. And in a few minutes, we'll get started and introduce our wonderful speakers. And then we're going to kind of go over all the different things to do to have multiple careers and answer some questions. We already have some questions emailed to us, so we're very excited to discuss those on video. 12:04, we'll go 12:05, we'll get going. We'll give everyone 5 minutes, okay? Oh, we got somebody. Hey, Washington, Elaine is here. Hi, Elaine. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. We haven't started yet, so you haven't missed a whole lot. My name is Reza. I'm the host. We'll be introducing the speakers in a few minutes. We're just waiting for everyone to join. It looks like we got at least three people here. So, all right. So, one more minute, and we'll get going. Where's everyone? Now, again, you don't have to be on. You don't have to unmute yourself. If you want to jump in, you can always type your questions. There's a chat box. So if you have any questions as our speakers speak, feel free to jump in. And again, you don't have to be on video. Do whatever makes you comfortable.
I want to share this article,
please do.
Why you should have at least two careers. So this was an article that Marcia and I came across independently. And I had seen it a while ago, and I thought it had summed up my career so well. And then Marcia posted it and said, hey, I read that article too. It was really awesome. And we chatted about it. And that's what brought us here today, because we've had, this varied career path, and many of our clients have as well. So we thought it would be kind of fun to talk about it. And as we were chatting about it, Marcia mentioned your name, and I thought, wait, that can't be the same Reza from UCSB. And sure enough, it was. And I thought that was pretty cool.
It's a small world. Well, very good. Well, thanks for everyone for being there. Again, my name is Reza. I'm going to be the host. Our main speakers are, we got Johnny Weiss. Hi, Johnny. Nice to join us. We just got started. So we're going to be going into the magic of multiple careers. We have two amazing speakers who have a lot of wealth of information. Myself, I also have had multiple careers, so one of the reasons I'm here. But my background, went to UC Santa Barbara. I graduated from the university, and I used to be a tour guide, and I love to talk. So I got hired in the admissions office, thinking it was going to be a job for a couple of years. And now 25 years later, I'm still doing admissions recruiting and admissions enrollment. And so I worked for the University of California, Santa Barbara for 5 years. And then I went to the dark side, some would say, which is for-profit. And I worked for a photography school in Santa Barbara, famous Brooks Institute, architectural school, acupuncture, massage therapy, aviation. After I did aviation, I left aviation as director of admissions and started my own consulting business. And I wrote this book called Finding the Right Flight School. And now I'm back doing remote admissions director for a school in underwater welding. So I've done everything with recruiting. And in the meanwhile, I've done yoga on the side. I've done some stuff with solar, some stand-up comedy. So having multiple careers, maybe because of my personality, is the only way I know how to operate. And I think today, for those of you who are here, obviously you have an interest in today's world in having different multiple sources of income. And if you can do it, it's a great way to be able to contribute. So our speakers today is the wonderful Markell Morris, a career counselor and job search coach. You can see all her website, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're going to have all this available for you. Also a UC Santa Barbara graduate, very proud, a fellow Gaucho. We're going to go again into detail about their backgrounds in a few minutes. They'll tell you about the great work they do in helping people, motivating people, a very holistic approach to inspiring. And, we all need help when it comes to careers. And what better than someone who has a network of people and knows how to help you along the way. So Markell, we're really excited for you to be here and to share your experience. Our next speaker is the wonderful Marcia Wall, who is from career success coach, has her own business. I know has helped me personally many times, especially during COVID, where the aviation world went boom and I had no students to recruit from internationally. She helped me kind of get back on my feet. So I'm very indebted to her. We met in my yoga class through Meetup, and this is her phone number and her LinkedIn. So Marcia is just got a absolute gem of a heart and goes above and beyond in helping her clients. So it's going to be great for you guys to hear from her. So let's talk about what we're here to talk about today. Obviously, we're going to be sharing our personal stories, challenges and rewards of having more than one career. We're going to offer some strategies and insights and give you some resources to supporting you if you're looking to make career changes or, having multiple careers. Okay. So what we're going to talk about is why is it important to talk about having multiple careers? What does it look like to have multiple careers? And what do you do if you're curious about career development but don't know where to start? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to leave you with a bunch of resources for you to find information. And anytime you have any questions, just jump in the chat box and I'll be monitoring the questions. Markell, do you want to jump in and maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story? And our speakers our listeners are waiting to hear from you.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a career coach and a job search coach as well, and that's sort of a catch-all title or titles for a lot of things that I do. So we'll talk more in detail about what my career looks like, or has looked like over the years and what's motivated me to have multiple careers. But today I have my business, Futures in Motion. Actually, I've always had, a gig and side gigs. So I have Futures in Motion, which is my career management company. And I do a range of things under that umbrella: one-on-one coaching, group coaching programs, publications, online classes, consulting, all of that. And I also have what I refer to as my W-2s, and I have a couple adjunct positions at local community colleges. So for me, kind of like you, Reza, I didn't really choose this path. It kind of chose me. I don't know how to work any other way. I've tried to fit into the 9-to-5 traditional role, and it didn't really work for me, as well as all of these. And I always had a side gig doing that as well. So I love what I do, helping people to create a career path that works for them. And I'm able to do that because I had to figure it out for myself. And I sort of transfer that onto that knowledge and insight and wisdom onto my clients.
Now, when you finished Santa Barbara, what was your major? How did you get into, did you have an idea? I told you 20 years ago you'd be doing this. What would you say to your past self?
Kind of. Actually, I was on an alumni panel a couple of weeks ago, and they asked a similar question. So my undergraduate major was sociology, and that's a lot of nothing. And I had a vague idea always, from early on, that I wanted to have a business, and I thought I might go into private practice as a therapist, but I wasn't really interested in going that deep into psychology. And so after I graduated, I came back to Orange County, and I ended up getting a job at Orange Coast College in EOPS outreach. And that's where I got exposed to higher ed and career and counseling. I went to graduate school in San Diego, that's where I discovered specifically career counseling and career development. And then I haven't looked back from there. And in the beginning of my career, I always knew I was going to start what we refer to as a private practice in my profession. And I knew I was going to do that. And so I did get a little bit of a foundation. I was intentionally went to the Anderson School at UCLA so I could learn about sales and marketing and how to actually run a business, because they don't teach you how to run a business in counseling programs.
Sure.
And then I went on and started my business, and here I am all these years later.
Very cool. Good. Okay. Very good. Thanks for sharing. Wonderful story. And Marcia, you're on mute, by the way, if you want to unmute yourself.
Oh no,
And
yeah, I'm on mute in case my geriatric cat starts screaming. I don't think
Okay.
that needs to be part of the presentation.
All right.
Like Markell, I would say that multiple careers found me. I got my undergraduate degree in literature from UC Santa Cruz, started in on a career in education, although even before that, I was doing things in hospitality and sales. And the short version is I realized that I really love coaching people, but not grading bad papers for a living. And, I'll go in more detail about my career path in the future, but actually when I was on a career break, and this happens to a lot of people, I was very sick and I was on disability for quite a long time. And I knew I had to reinvent myself. And so I actually sought the services of a career counselor. And in our second meeting together, I told her, I want your job. And then I looked back at my career and realized that I had been doing this sort of work in one way or for another about 20 years. And that even if I was doing other things, I was still using communication skills, outreach skills, networking skills, coaching skills. So I went and got certified through the National Career Development Association. Eventually took some classes at UCSD and teaching online. And here I am. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, Reza.
Awesome. Very good. All right. So we do have some questions we got previously to our meeting. So we appreciate whoever sent these questions. So I'm going to read these out, and Markell and Marcia, just jump in. So the first question we had was, when you do many things and have many skills, talents, and interests, how do you decide which activities, interests should become a job, a part of your career, and which should stay as a hobby? So that's a great question. I know I can answer that too, but please jump in.
I think that's a wonderful question, and it really kind of gets at the heart of what Marcia and I do and have done personally, but also help our clients to do. I think for me and for my clients, what it comes down to at the foundation is defining your goals and aspirations and what kind of lifestyle you want. Because the reality is that, we say, do what you love and money will fall. We say all these things, but the reality is that for some of our hobbies, it's harder to make money at than others. And so when you have the reality of a certain, income level or lifestyle that you're trying to support, then that's going to inform which of your hobbies and interests are most likely to support those at this given time. It's not to say that you should take things off the table, but maybe you sequence them, and maybe you identify how this particular hobby right now you can leverage that into this and ultimately build a foundation. So that's what I have done, and that's what I would advise, is to get some clarity really about your personal and professional goals and the lifestyle that you desire to have, and that will inform what you do with all your hobbies and interests.
I think that's a great answer, Markell, and I would probably have a slightly different answer, and that is to go trick-or-treating, do a little bit of exploration, have a little bit of fun. I didn't necessarily have the intention to pursue different careers, but what I found is that if I continued to use the skills and practice the values that were core to who I am, that opportunities presented themselves to me, and I took advantage of those opportunities. Now, to be fair, I've had two main careers, and they're very closely related: educator and career coach, right? That's where the bulk of my income has come from. But I've had a side career as a stand-up comic, still actually preparing for a show right now for that one. I've been a photographer. I have been a traffic reporter. I've worked in hospitality, and those are only the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. But what I do know is that they're fun, that, being a stand-up comic hones my skills in connecting with people and having empathy for people and engaging with people and all of my communication skills. So I think you just need to try something, start it as a hobby, see where it goes, nurture it. I mean, even as a career coach, I started doing resumes on the side for people and helping friends prepare for job interviews. And it wasn't until later that I realized, oh, you know what, I can make some money at this. I can do what I love and do it really well and serve people. So have fun, explore, and see what sticks.
I think that's really great. And that's also been a lot of what I've done over the course of my career, when sometimes in circumstances you can't be selective, but in those times when I have initiated change, it's really started by an interest that I had. Someone maybe presented an opportunity. I'm like, that sounds really interesting. Or as I've shared with you, I'm learning Korean right now. And there was no goal with that. I just took a class. And as I started pursuing that particular interest, other opportunities, became, or possibilities started emerging, not necessarily related to that, but just the action of doing something that's interesting and enriching spills over into other areas of your life. And I think you're right. Just if you have an interest in something, see where it goes. And if it aligns and supports your goals, it makes money for you and you can pay your bills, then do it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's all about survival. We're all going to have one main career that's going to be our main source of income. Okay. So for me, it's been in college admissions or consulting students or, and then on the side, and then people, I think the more you network, and I think people who got to know me, they know that I have a multi-personalities. I love doing different things. So, on Saturdays, I teach yoga on the Bay, and it's donation based. It's $5 a person. I've had up to 40 people in my class, especially during gas times. 40 people at $5 a pop is good extra money, and then people bring their friends. Or we've done, I loved motivating people. So based on that yoga thing, I created an hour and a half, 2-hour personal growth seminar in person. So we did an hour yoga, and then we did all these exercises where people had to write a letter to themselves, and then they mail it, and they get it a month later. And that was, $20 a person. And they had it. So, just by my yoga, which was a hobby, I had my full-time job, but on the weekend, I was making a couple $100, once every few months. And that's and it's exciting because you're reaching out to people. But I think what you said, Markell, people get to know you, and then they start reaching out to you and say, hey, again, I'll give you another example. About a year and a half ago, I was in between gigs, and one of my friends called and said, hey, I have a solar company, and you don't have to go door to door. All you got to do is, a lot of people through your Facebook. Just let people know if they're interested in solar. You can get them a quote. I did that, and I sold some solar by just getting someone's electric bill, and it doesn't take that much time, but it was just because somebody knew, and I put it out in the universe, and I'm looking for opportunities. So you can't be afraid of letting the world know, hey, I'm open to different opportunities, because doors will open up.
Mm-hmm. And you made a couple good points in your remarks, Reza. One is the power of your relationships. Right. And I think anybody who has multiple careers or portfolio careers has sort of tapped into that, not maybe intentionally, but we're just curious about other people and we like connecting with other people, and that naturally expands opportunities. But also, everything that you do doesn't have to be $1 million moneymaker. Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I think that's also important.
That's a great point. I think that to me, someone says, your question was, should you stay as a hobby? As I said, the one main job is where your main income's coming, but once every few months, having something else that brings you whatever it is, 500 to 1,000 to $200. Hey, that's, there's nothing wrong with that.
I actually have a friend who's many friends, but a friend in particular who's a financial advisor. And he shared that with me. There are a lot of people who have different types of businesses. And he said, you don't have to make a lot of money. You just have to make enough consistently over time.
That's good advice. Well, which brings us to the second. Yeah, go ahead.
Please, Reza. No, I'd love to hear the second question.
Well, the second part of the question, it really brings to the real kind of the crux of everything, right? How do you manage your time, your scheduling to make room for different careers as so that's the biggest challenge, right? I think in the world of COVID, especially, for me now being remote, if when I do really well in one of my jobs, my supervisors, they give me the freedom. They're like, oh, you know what? He runs it like a business, so I don't need to be micromanaged. Allows me to do other things on the side as long as I'm maintaining my professionalism with my job. So that's one benefit. At my age, at 53, I never want to go back to an office. Having the freedom of making my own schedule is the beauty of it, right? So, but that is the biggest challenge, I think, for many people is how do you, because the thought of like, I'm barely surviving in this job, how do you balance having a second income source? So, Marcia, what do you think of that? How does someone handle that?
That's a really good question. And I think for me, because I can really mostly speak to my own experience, is to go back to that idea of trick or treating, right? Just because I was like, there was a point where I was a photographer, comedian working in the hospitality industry. But quite frankly, I was freelancing. I had survived Hurricane Katrina. And when I came back to New Orleans after being in Southern California, I had lost my life savings. I had $1,000 to my name, and I either literally had to sink or swim. And so I used the power of my network to do a lot of different things. So in that regard, I had time. But then when I did go on to more traditional careers or working more of an 8 to 5, I cut back on a lot of things. So I think what we failed to mention too so far. I think you're right, Reza. For people like you and me and Markell, we have sort of one main career. But there are people, like I have a client who was a private investigator for many, many years, and then she decided she wanted to bake people happy. So she started a baking business. And now that that's really taking off, she's selling part of her private investigating business. So I think it looks different for different people. But I think what's most important is to really listen to yourself and what works for you, understand what you need to do for your physical health and your mental health. You don't have to do it all perfectly. You don't have to do it all at once, but if you want to do it, try it out and see what happens.
All right, Markell, you want to jump in? Anything you want to add?
Well, I'm a naturally organized person. So for me, it's not as much about keeping track with everything. It's more about managing my energy. And so I if you see my calendar, you would be overwhelmed by it, but at a glance, I can see what I need to do. And if I see too much of one color on my calendar, then I know I'm out of balance and why I'm feeling it. And I make adjustments. I actually have a note right here on my desk that says, it's my sort of affirmation. I want to be moderately scheduled and well rested. So, and I've defined what that looks like for me. It looks like something different for everyone else, but it's for me, it's about energy, and I want to have fun, and I want to be fully present for all the things that I do, especially as a career coach. I'm working with people. And so I want to be able to give my full attention to the people that I'm working with and supporting in their career goals. And so if I'm out of balance, I'm not able to do that. So for me, it's about how I want to spend my energy so I can do my best work. And so I've come up with ways to do that. And, Marcia kind of alluded to this. There are cycles. In some seasons, we might be doing a little bit more than at other times. And when I have more downtime, I honor that and I rest and I plan for the future. And I also have a virtual assistant. So I do have someone supporting me. That's an investment that I made in my business. And that helps to alleviate a little bit of some pressure on some of the tactical stuff that I need to do in my business. But it's really for me about managing my energy relative to my goals and aspirations.
One suggestion I would make, and this is just my own personal story, is everyone here probably is an expert in some area, and we don't take ourselves, sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. And I did college, working for colleges, especially very specialized majors. So I started working, I'll tell you my story real quick. Started working for an aviation school for 3 years in San Diego, California Flight Academy. I was director of admissions, and there were students coming here from all over the world. And I started talking to students and parents, even USGIs and high school parents who would call me and say, my son wants to be a pilot, but we don't know anything about flight school. I know what it takes to become a lawyer, a doctor, everything. But flight training, I mean, I know nothing about it. So I started doing some research, and I wrote a book, self-published on Amazon, which was remarkably easy, and my book basically is not about how to fly, because I don't know how to fly, but it's a guide on how to find the right flight school, how to compare prices, and it's 80 pages. But I created this book, and I went online and I found a ghostwriter to help me. So I had all my ideas on paper, and then the ghostwriter helped me put it in a professional manner. One suggestion for all the people who are on here: think about something that you're really an expert on. And I mean, it's one of my greatest things. I love it. I'm a published author. I mean, it's self-published through Amazon, but it's still an amazing feeling. We had a big, a book launch party. All my friends showed up, and Marcia has been encouraging me to write a story about my life growing up in Iran and escaping the revolution, coming to the U.S. as a first-generation immigrant. So that's, now that I've done this, but for some of you watching this right now, even future in the future when you watch the recording, maybe there's something you're an expert on, and you could, it wasn't that expensive. Honestly, creating my book cost me about $2,500, and it's all done through Amazon. It sells on Amazon. I make a little chunk change every month. Again, as you said, Markell, it's not the money, but it's the achievement. Now when I go for job interviews, one of my things is, hey, I bring my book with me. So that's just something I thought about, that I think I encourage everyone to maybe jot down. What could I write a book on? It doesn't have to be a manuscript. It could be 100 pages, but it could help people, and you're a published author.
And to get back to the original question, right? You just carve out that time. You decide what you're going to prioritize.
Yep.
You decide how much energy you want to put into something. And, with most things, don't go in with any expectations, and don't feel bad if you feel like, I didn't have enough time towards that this week. We all have a limited amount of time. We all have 24 hours in one day. So do the best that you can, have fun with it, and see what happens. Reza, what other questions did we have?
So yeah, we want to open it up to questions. Right now, we don't have any more in the chat. So if anybody on here, feel free to, by the way, unmute yourself. And if you want to just speak and say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us where you're calling in from, we'd love to hear from you. But any other questions here, please let us know. The floor is yours. We'd be happy to discuss, the multiple career opportunities in the world, and what do you think about it? Anybody have any thoughts, or anybody's done stuff in the world where they've had a career and had maybe a side gig? Would love to hear from you. All right, I don't think we have any more questions.
Well, no need to be shy. I think, what I would like to add to this conversation is that it's okay to fail in the process, right? If you have a side gig, or you're pursuing something else and you find out it doesn't work for you, no big whoop. You just leave it and sort of, move on to something else. I would also say that one of the things that can really help you in deciding what else you might like to do is to really identify your skills, your values, and your interests. You can do that on your own. You can do it with a coach. And actually, before we sign off today, we're going to give you some resources where you can access things online, and actually free career resources. Because once you really know what your professional story is, what your mission is, what your vision is, and how you want to contribute, and how you want your career to serve you, then some of these other things begin to take root. And at the same time, you realize that it's one story. They're not disparate. Like I said, in all of the things that I've done, it's been about communication, uplifting people, helping people to, achieve their best lives. Even when I was a photographer, my goal was not to take a snapshot. My goal was to help the individual to re-envision himself or herself or themselves. And once they got the picture, to think of themselves in a different way, and how would that new vision of themselves sort of move forward. I think another thing I would say is, do not forget the power of bartering. Right now, actually, I have a side gig, sort of, as a property manager for a short-term rental. And even though I don't get paid in cash for it, my rent is reduced by $600 a month. And so that's something, right? That's $600 a month that I'm spending on something else, or I'm saving, or that just means that's $600 more worth of time a week that I don't have to work and I can live my best life. And so when you think about having a new gig or a side career, offer to barter with people, see what you can get for your time and your talent and what you can get in return. And I guess the end point of that is that success with multiple careers looks different for different people, and that's 100% okay. What would you say, Markell?
I would agree with that. And, in all of that, really the foundation for success, I guess, as a person with multiple careers is clarity of purpose and goals, but also that willingness to just try things, because all of our ideas haven't always worked out when we wanted them to. And sometimes our ideas never work out. And sometimes for me, some of my ideas, I had them before their time or before I was really ready to do anything with them. And then, years later, I have an idea again. I'm like, wait a minute, I already, and I go back and then I have more tools and make it successful. But I'm also really a big believer, like you, Marcia, of course, we're career coaches, in assessment, but assessment in a different way. We use the standard assessments, but I think especially at certain points in your career development or career goal setting, it's important to maybe do reflective assessment, where you're really thinking about and imagining possibilities, ways that you can pull together your interests, your natural abilities into something that would be satisfying and enjoyable for you and make money. I like guided journaling. I love vision boards. And I do this reflective type work quite a lot with my clients, but because I've done it with myself. And Reza, I'm like you, I self-published a book many years ago based off of my own transition at that time. And I think, wow, all of these things worked for me. So I put it together in a book so I could share it with other people. And so I have that. And I've since written many other books and guides. If you had asked me if I was going to be a writer, I would say, oh no, I was not going to be a writer. Well, I am a writer. I don't have a career as a writer in the traditional sense, but my writing ability, my communication skills have enabled me to do a lot of things that I might not have considered. So I like to encourage people also to sort of deconstruct the job titles and really kind of separate yourself from the job titles and really look at the components of jobs that really resonate with you. Using your communication skills, your planning, organizing skills, whatever those may be, the ways that you like to show up and naturally show up and make an impact is separate from whatever that job title is. And it can offer you many opportunities, many enriching opportunities to just be, but also to make a living. And one final thing, I love the Ikigai framework. Maybe you've heard of that. You can Google that, but the Ikigai framework really is a helpful and useful framework for in identifying your goals and aspirations and the kind of impact that you want to make, and basically the journey that you want to have in your life and career.
No, I would echo that, Markell. When I was growing up, or still, my mother was an educator, and I swore that I was never going to be a teacher, that I didn't want to do anything like being a teacher. And then when I tried it out, I was a substitute teacher because I got out of school. I didn't know what else to do. I knew how to do that, and I got an emergency credential. And I was like, oh, I could do this for a living, but I want to do it at the college level. So I saw the advice of a career coach. I started doing it at the college level. And then I was reminded why I didn't want to be an educator, but it was on that journey, right, that I really saw that I like to coach and motivate people. And so now I consider myself a career educator. I'm not here just to help people find jobs and kind of a one-off and then move on. I really consider it my job, my pleasure, my professional passion to help people gain the tools that they need to be able to manage their careers over a lifetime. So when I'm talking to potential clients, I say, you know what, I'm a career educator. And so if you take away those titles or look at those titles in a different way, you may see new possibilities. Right, Markell?
Yes, and I'm smiling over here because I can relate to that. My many people in my family, including my dad, were educators, 39 years in public schools. And so we all got that message. You could always be a substitute teacher. Are you going to be a teacher? You know, sociology major, what are you going to do with that? You could be a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher, but you could be a teacher. I gave you a good life being a teacher, you know, kind of a thing. And so we all took the CBEST and we all went and, you know, tried to be substitute teachers. I did not want that. But then fast forward through my career, I became a career educator like you. And I smile and laugh at the irony of that because I resisted becoming a teacher because I didn't want the teacher, what I envisioned as a teacher. But when I started looking at teaching as educating and using my communication gifts and talents to help people navigate their careers and academics, it was totally different. And I love it.
Well, I wanted to share a couple more stories if I can. Earlier, someone asked, you know, what was the catalyst for change or how did you get into some of these different careers? I remember that I went to an open mic night because I grew up in the theater and I was reading some comedic essays that I had read and people laughed at them. And I said, wait, if I can stand up and talk to students and I can write comedy, why can't I do comedy? And so I just started going to open mics and gave it a shot. And 15, 16, 17 years later, I'm still making money doing it. So I think the catalyst sometimes can just be that curiosity and that willingness. But I would also say, because someone had asked me, if someone's curious about other career directions, how can they implement a career change? And I'm thinking of one of my clients who was in nonprofit and really liked that, but she had the bug for coding. She was like, I might want a coding career. And so what did she do? On the side, she went to a coding boot camp. I think it was no more than 8 weeks. While she was in that coding boot camp, she networked. That led to her next job. And from there, she was doing so well. She recently landed a job making over $125,000 a year in tech. And that's off 8 weeks of boot camp. So I think the moral of the story there, if you're interested in something, upskill, right? You can have a degree, you can not have a degree, but if you have the skills, you know, you're going to be qualified to do other things. So if you want to make a change, get a new skill, get a new degree, go get a certificate, go do an apprenticeship, right? Join AmeriCorps. You can get trained to do new things. It doesn't matter how old you are or what your background is.
I think that's great. That's a great story. That's great advice.
And Charles just shared a Forbes article with us. So thank you, Charles.
So often we get caught up in having to do things in such a sequential manner. And I think you're right. Leaning into, if you have an interest in something, go look into it. You don't have to sign up for a boot camp. You can take a class, you can join a webinar, you can go to a conference. You know, there are lots of different ways to explore interests. And it's in addition to perhaps learning a new skill or enhancing your knowledge, getting outside of your area of comfort and familiarity will give you access to new people, and you'll meet new people and they have, you know, other things that they've done, and you can tap into their knowledge and wisdom and experience. And I wanted to also talk about the catalyst for change, because I've had similar experiences. We're just trying something, you know, new and interesting. But the reality is too, over the course of my career, my life, I've had to make changes and put together, you know, hobble together different jobs because of really difficult circumstances that I had faced. You know, unexpected separation from employment, becoming unexpectedly widowed, and, you know, facing a brain tumor. And I had all of that happen in a very short amount of time. And I couldn't be so selective and cheery about what I did in those moments, but because I was used to pulling together different types of jobs and contracts and what have you, I used that in this season when I really needed to. And then I discovered new opportunities even in that. Someone has a question: how do you take your passion and interest and determine if you can monetize them? Well, if someone asks you about it, start asking them for money. If they give you $5, there you go.
You know, it's funny. I took a yoga training class about 15 years ago, And I just started doing free yoga classes on the Bay. And, a couple of friends would show up. And then it started getting bigger and people were like, oh, how much is the donation? I was like, I didn't even think about it. And then it was like, wow. And then it became a habit. So I just did it because I loved being on the Bay and, doing yoga and doing the, guided meditation. And then it became a little side, so every weekend, I make a couple $100 or 40, $50, whatever. But it was just, I didn't ask for it. So you got to start off small. But if you have a passion for something, start doing it. And when there's value to it, people will be like, okay, well, what do I owe you? And then that's when that moment comes, like, wow. Because people, we all value value. We all want to reward valuable information, whatever it is, and service. So if it's something that you're passionate about, I would say write down, right now when you finish this webinar, on a piece of paper on your phone, write down 5 things you would love to do. If you didn't have your career, what would you be doing for fun? And maybe how do you find a way to make that into something where you can actually make some money? And that's like the example that Marcia gave with the coding.
Are there other questions in the chat, Rez?
There is no more questions, right? That was a really good one about the passion. But, Charles shared a very nice article on Forbes. So I would recommend everyone, I just clicked on it, to click on it and save it to read later. So thank you for sharing that, Charles.
Well, I would actually like to share, if we can, for just a second. Let's pull this up. No, not that. Let's see. Sorry about that. Tech is not one of my things. I think if I were wealthy enough, if anyone wants to gain some volunteer experience as a virtual assistant, you can contact me after what we're doing here. But I wanted to share, one second. Here we go. Some key resources that you can take advantage of. ONET Online is a comprehensive site for career assessment and exploration, job training resources, and labor market information. Just look up ONET Online and you're going to find it. Career Stop, this is amazing. It's a site for career exploration training. But here's the thing, it has links to free career centers all over the country. I know the one in San Diego is massive. They have online offerings. They used to have in-person offerings. There's classes. There are resources specific for veterans, for seniors. They have one-on-one mock interviewing, interview coaching, as well as help with your resume. And then, Markell, do you want to talk about the Occupational Outlook Handbook?
I love the Occupational Outlook Handbook. These are the 3 resources that I kind of use the most when I'm doing some basic research. The Occupational Outlook Handbook is a resource online that you can access, and it has descriptions of hundreds of different jobs and industry outlooks, labor salary information, job outlook information. And I like the format of the Occupational Outlook Handbook. It's narrative, so it sort of describes what people do in different jobs, what kind of skills, knowledge, abilities that they need, what's rewarding about the job. And I also like it because it has similar occupations, so people can really expand on their list of possible jobs. And all of these really work together. The source of all this information is the Bureau of Labor Statistics from the United States. And they've published these different resources in different formats, but all the information is really solid, well-researched, and up to date.
Yeah, I would say 2 other resources, and they're not on here, but one of them is to do informational interviews. Find people who are doing what you want to do, or people that you find interesting, or companies where they work, and talk to them and pick their brain. Say, why did you decide to do this? How did you get into this? What did you need to do to prepare for this? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the rewards? And at the end of any informational networking conversation, always ask for a takeaway. Do you know someone else that I can speak with? Do you know about a professional organization I can join? Right? You want something to continue the conversation. And the other thing, and this is how Reza and I met through Meetup, that's when he was doing his yoga classes, is attend some groups, right? COVID restrictions are lifting a little bit. You can get out and do things. if you're interested in teaching English as a second language, I guarantee you that there's a meetup for that. If you're interested in learning more about yoga, there's a meetup for that. I belong to several photography meetup groups, and through that, I've been able to learn how to develop my skills and network and get more clients out of that. So the bottom line is network, network, network. If you don't like that word, call it building your professional tribe. If you don't like that, just call it meeting people, making professional friends. If you know how to make friends, you can network, right, Markell?
I love that, because yes, please, let's just demystify this whole thing. It's just meeting people. And I think that's one of the most important and valuable parts of all that we've been really talking about, is the opportunity. I'm a sociology major, and a counselor, so I like people. So the opportunity to meet people and learn from people and connect with people is invaluable, really, in life, I think. And so that's one of the most important and valuable parts of having multiple careers for me, is the opportunity to meet and connect with people from all different backgrounds all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead, Reza.
And be humble. I know people who have had really high positions and they're in between gigs, and they do Uber on the side. And the funny thing is, one of the guys who was doing Uber, he got his next job because he was very, like you, Markell, very social, and he had a business card, and he would ask people, "Oh, where are you from? What kind of work you do?" And sure enough, one of his passengers was hiring. He gave him his card, and he had an interview a couple of weeks later, and he got a job by doing Uber.
And by the way, I'm a very sociable introvert.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to be an extrovert to to excel at networking. Remember, it's normal to have multiple careers. Maybe you've had multiple careers not by choice, and that doesn't mean that you're a failure. It actually means that you're adaptable and that you have resilience and you can persist. Multiple careers definitely means having multiple income streams. And I can tell you, when I was freelancing full-time and doing 10 things at once, if I lost one gig, I just picked up money in another gig. I didn't necessarily make all the money in the world, but I never missed a mortgage payment, and I was semi-retired in my mid-30s, and I had the time of my life. Having multiple careers also enhances your career development. So what you may learn from one job can influence another job. As a stand-up comedian, I learned specific skills that could then translate into my other careers. And finally, it's fun and it keeps you intellectually challenged, right? None of us are on this planet for a long time. So yes, work, be of service to others, but enjoy yourself and grow intellectually in the process.
Absolutely. Those are some of the pros that I noted as well. And, in many circumstances, you're learning while you're earning. It broadens your professional and personal network. And like you, Marcia, I've enhanced my skills many times through the different gigs that I've had. And, specifically, as a counselor, that was my background and training, was as a counselor, but counseling skills helped me with sales and marketing. And I actually have been hired for program manager roles that were heavy on sales and marketing, because they said, "Oh, you're a counselor, you know how to talk to people." And they helped each other. And so, and also I think it's really important. I don't know, I'm all for diversifying income and revenue. That's one way to safeguard.
Johnny had a question. How do you answer the question when people ask, "What do you do?"
Well, I think Marcia kind of addressed that. So that is one of the challenges of having multiple careers, but it's up to us to make it easier for other people. And so we have to know the through line. So as opposed to saying, I do this job, that job, that job, that job, what underpins all of that is I help people, or I really enjoy, helping, coming alive, making this topic tangible for people who are unfamiliar with it. I enjoy helping people with their health and wellness, whatever it may be, but you have to come up with a narrative so that people focus less on the actual specific jobs, but more about the impact and the way that you show up in that. And so it's about personal branding and taking a step back and really identifying the themes in the through line, like I'd say, in all of the different jobs that you've had or the gigs that you've had, and then summarizing that into a cohesive message.
Okay, couple of things. Charles, thank you for your message. Charles says, thank you for this and hope we do more of these meetings and build into a group of multiple incomers. So we'll
Oh,
definitely.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
that's a great idea. And I think Paige had a question too.
Yeah, Paige goes, could you speak to how a career could be both a niche and also lead into other careers?
I hate to be a broken record, but I do think it's what we've been talking about. Markell was saying that if your story is your niche, right? No matter what I do, I'm helping people to realize and exceed their own expectations. I've done that as a kindergarten counselor, although when I was a teacher, I often felt like a counselor. I've done that as a photographer. Even as a comedian, I was helping people to exceed their own expectations for laughter, to be entertained. And so I think it's important to say, okay, if I'm doing these two different things, what do they have in common? And then taking responsibility for that story. And I know that sounds maybe a little bit more complicated and amorphous than maybe someone's wanting to hear, but I think that's really what it's all about. You know who's a star at this is Oprah Winfrey, right? She has a magazine, a show. She's got so many different products, but the brand is still Oprah, and that's what sells.
One of the an exercise that people can do, and Marcia, you're probably familiar with this, is from the beginning of our career thing, is doing a career lifeline and really looking at over a period of time the different gigs or the different jobs that you've had and what motivated you to say yes to those opportunities, and what did you enjoy most about those opportunities? What was the impact that you made in those opportunities, and pull out the commonalities and put that in a sentence, and there you go, that's your brand.
One thing I would say, we did this in my personal exercise, and I would encourage everyone to do this, is write yourself a letter dated 6 months from now, a year from now, and visualize where you want to be, with all the things, with no limitations. And you literally write it, and you either give it to someone to mail it to you, or you put it in a place where you open up, and because you'll forget exactly what you wrote, and be specific as you can. We did that in the personal development seminars that we did on the beach, and it was phenomenal. And one of my friends, wanted to leave San Diego, start a new, and he said, I want to be out of here in about a year. And he manifested that. And a year later, he was in Charleston, South Carolina with a brand new career, new girlfriend, new life. He had just finished the Navy, been in San Diego for many years, and he manifested that in the seminar with the yoga. And a year later, and there is real power to that. So I would encourage you to write a letter yourself tonight. Get on a Microsoft Word or handwrite it even better, and then read it to yourself 6 months later, 3 months. You decide what the window is, and see where you're at.
I loved. Oh, go ahead, Markell.
I was just saying, I love that. I love those kind of activities, and they're very, very powerful.
Charles said, I hope you do more of these Zoom meetings. I can tell you that if you follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll drop my LinkedIn in the chat, I'm actually doing 3 or 4 more of these types of meetings over the next few months. Most are free. I think the last one in May is going to be like $25. So it's, pretty low entry there. And I know if you follow Markell, and I'm going to drop in my LinkedIn, but if you follow Markell or get on her email newsletter, go visit her website, you're also going to find a lot of resources, tips, tricks. I know every Friday on LinkedIn, I post a free resource that can help people. And many of them are going to be videos like this, where you can learn from other people. So the good news, Charles, is that we're on that, and you can connect with us.
Yeah, I just added my LinkedIn too. Yeah, go ahead, Markell.
Actually, in 2 weeks, I'm doing a online workshop on career visioning using the Ikigai framework. So if you're interested in that, it's free. So join that, and I think if you're on my mailing list, you'll definitely get it, and I'll be posting about it. So I love that framework. So it's a good next step if that's what you're thinking about.
Well, you know, this has
top
been
line
great.
numbers.
This is our first one, and we're going to do many more. So I want to again thank everyone for being here. For all of you who took the time to join us, for all of you who are going to be watching this later, feel free to email any of us or contact us. And if you do want some one-on-one coaching, you got 2 gems here. So I would encourage you to reach out to them and maybe have a short meeting because it could completely change your life and propel you into a whole new world. So anything else did you want to share, Marcia, Markell, anything else before we end our webinar? But again, it's been a really good conversation and the questions have been phenomenal.
What I would say is just start and, you know, just assume that there are no limitations.
No, that's exactly right. Just start. And if you have questions, reach out for help, right? None of us succeeds in this world alone. And so give it a shot. If you need some help, come to a coach, go to a mentor, go to a trusted friend, you know, look for the right resources, but have fun with it because life is short.
Yeah, we got somebody, we just had somebody who came in late. Rochelle, I think, said, just one of the questions is, will this be on replay later? And I think we're gonna be, it's recorded so we can send it out to you. So Rochelle Cole just wants to know if they can watch it later.
Yes, this is recorded. I will be uploading it to my YouTube and posting it on LinkedIn. I'm going to be giving the link to Markell as well as Reza, and they'll be sharing it in their own networks and through their own channels. And if you signed up for today's presentation, I know that Markell will be sending you a link to this. And so, yes, it's definitely there.
And Charles thinks we should do another one soon. So
thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, y'all,
Charles.
for showing
Very
up. This
good.
has been great.
Well, thank you guys again for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Be safe and stay safe and be blessed.
Bye.
Bye-bye.